So welcome back to my channel. Today I want to do a video going over this crazy market. As you guys know, new cars are selling at MSRP and people are like, that's a great deal. How do we get here?
You want the solution to inflation?
And the worst part about it is used cars are literally selling for what new cars are selling for, and it's really hard to get a good deal on anything right now. So I want to do this video to really help people find other ways to negotiate. Just to give you my resume, I did work in the car business for almost 10 years. I was a salesperson. I became a finance manager, which I spent most of my time in the car business doing. I became a sales manager for a short period of time. And then I moved over to Mopar doing warranty or service contract, basically, with them. And then I moved over to indirect lending, and that's where I just got released from, so to speak. But this video is going to really help you understand different ways to negotiate, because right now, if you can't get any money off of a car, then the next best thing is reconditioning. Now you might be asking, reconditioning, what does it have to do with getting a better deal? Let me explain. So if you're lucky to get a couple $1,000s off of a used car, you probably weren't lucky. They probably had about 10 grand of markup in it anyway. So, and on a used car, if they trade a car in for 20 and want to sell it back for 30, they can do that. But in a lot of cases, that's not really happening. Most dealerships today do not have the margin because most customers are demanding more money for their cars because of the market, especially that they're paying MSRP for it too. So obviously that's why you're paying more for used cars, because one thing affecting the other in a sense. But one thing that I've learned is if you can't beat them on the price, then make the car a better car for you if you plan on keeping it for a long time, especially if you're gonna overpay for it. Now, what I mean by that is this. As you guys know, when a car is traded in, a dealership is purchasing that car from you, right? So most people don't know this. Sales and service are basically two different entities. They work differently. Their money is separate. The only occasion there might be one or two stores that share in the profits for service and sales, but every dealership that I've ever worked at and have ever worked with, they're just separate entities, and that's the majority of all dealers. So once a dealership trades that car in, they send the car back to service. Now, service is going to give them a list of everything that needs to be done to that car. Does it need brakes? Does it need new tires? They typically will say that let's go ahead and change the oil. And so with that being said, the used car manager or director can check off what he wants done. Now, because of how low volumes are for new and used cars, dealers are trying to get cars back on the lot so they can sell them and turn their inventory. So in a lot of cases, dealerships are not doing all the reconditioning. But even if they are, there are some things that you can do as a consumer to help protect your investment and to help pad your pockets in the future. And that's where you can actually get a better deal on your used car. Now, something that I always do before I buy anything, I always check what is the cost of this car's maintenance. Before I bought my Ram 2500 and 3500, I never owned a Ram before, so I didn't know any of the maintenance that needed to be done to these cars. So before I bought them, I just said, okay, how much is it going to cost me to run this thing a year? And then how much is it going to cost me to run it 3 years? So I went in to ramtrucks.com and I found the owner's manual, and then I went to the scheduled maintenance. And when I did that, it shows you basically a chart of all the maintenance for each year. So that way, if a truck has 30,000 miles on, okay, what maintenance was done on that truck prior to me owning it? Now, let's just say, hypothetically, I have the Eisen in my Ram 3500. If I decided, okay, if I'm buying this truck used and I noticed that the customer before me did not do the transmission drain that they're supposed to do at 30K, then this is my opportunity to ask the dealership, hey, how can I get this maintenance done at the dealership for internal cost? Now, as I mentioned, service and sales are separate entities. So this is how you can get creative on getting a discounted rate on some of the labor, on some of the things that they might have skipped, or you might want to just get certain things done. So let's just say, for example, your car you're buying has 50,000 miles on it. If you were to look maybe 15,000 or 20,000 miles ahead, you could ask them, hey, can you go ahead and perform this maintenances on my car? That way it's something that you don't have to deal with in the next 2 to 3 years, because obviously inflation, as you see, is real. and I don't really see it going down drastically. So those things could cost a little bit more in the future. That way you're doing it now and just tackling that. Same thing goes for tires, brakes, any kind of wear items that you know are going to have to be replaced. Now, something I've learned is most dealers right now are not replacing tires. They're typically just running with the tires if they have at least 10 to 15,000 miles. Typically, if they have more than 330 seconds on a car or 530 seconds on a truck, they'll just, keep running the tires. And if you're like me and you're kind of thinking, hey, this is a perfect time to maybe do some upgrades to your car or truck. If you want to add new tires, and maybe add a more aggressive tire, like I just added 35 to my Ram 3500. This way you can basically figure out with them how much the tire is going to cost. Obviously, you're going to cross-check their prices because sometimes dealerships will try to make more money on you, obviously. So you have to, just see what the price would be. But the goal is figure out what the mounting, balancing, and alignment will be for the transaction. And of course, if they're giving it to you at internal cost, then you make out without having to pay that extra money. Because if you go back to service, you're gonna have to figure out how much is it gonna cost me as a consumer. Right now, I think I saw that labor charges at dealerships is like $125 an hour. If you can get it at half of that, or if you can get it at $50 an hour, you make out by not having to pay that extra money, because that's what you would have had to pay otherwise if you did it yourself. We're gonna call service, see what the labor charge is real quickly.
Express, this is Twan. May I help you?
What's up, Twan? How you doing, man?
How are you?
I'm pretty good. Hey, what is the labor charge an hour?
It's $145 an hour here.
It's $145 an hour.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then hypothetically, if I ran something through the sales, what's their internal labor charge?
Internal labor charge is $100 an hour.
$100 an hour. Thank you, sir.
I declare bankruptcy!
Whoa. So I guess I haven't really been paying attention, but it's $145 an hour. So if you want to get it done on the sales side when you buy a car, it's probably less than that. He didn't know it was me. I get a lot of work done at this dealership that I just called. I didn't tell him who I was, but you can probably get less than $100 versus what he said on the phone just now. But nevertheless, this is just something you can do before you take delivery of your car. Have them do the work. You're probably going to have to buy it, and you're going to probably have to get it on a WIO. But just make sure that you get the labor charge for internal costs. That way you don't have to pay $145 an hour. Because if you go back to service needing this stuff in a year, it could be higher than $145. Because I want to say just a year ago it was $125. So it's gone up $20. Insane. Now, if there are any other maintenance items that you can get addressed internally for internal cost, then get them done. Like if you want to get the brakes resurfaced, new brake pads, if you want to even go as crazy as changing the brake fluid, if there is like a lot of miles on the car, you want to do a drain on the transmission. There's so many things. Like if you want to change the fluid out on the diffs on a truck or SUV that has all-wheel drive. These are all ideas that you can do, and again, using the owner's manual will help you with this as well. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is scheduled maintenance. If you're buying a GMC from a GMC store, you can ask if they have any type of scheduled maintenance or lube, oil, and filter change plans. Now, I do know with Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, you can do this. So other manufacturers probably have something similar. You have to do your own research to make sure that the plans you're buying you're not overpaying for them. But typically with these types of plans, dealerships don't mark them up, typically, but you still have to make sure. So what I would do is I'd always call the service department on your own and figure out what an oil change and tire rotation costs. Now, if you can get a plan, typically you can do a 2-year plan or a 3-year plan, or you can even do a 5-year plan in some cases, 2 oil changes a year. And you can even bundle that with tire rotations. That way you don't have to worry about paying for that stuff throughout the year. And if you do get all this maintenance stuff done on the car before you buy, if you add new tires, you could potentially add all this to your financing if you plan on financing. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, you're going to pay interest on that. Well, if you're going to finance a car, you're going to pay interest anyways.
Since we're on the subject, I figured I would just show you the numbers really quickly. So if you're financing about $3,000 of work to your car, figure over the course of 60 months at 3.99, 6.5% sales tax. Your total loan amount with the extra maintenance added to the loan, you would be $31.95 with your sales tax. And over the course of the loan, you're going to pay $335 in interest. However, if you pay off the car early, you don't have to worry about paying off the full interest. And that's typical in a simple interest loan.
I hope this was helpful. make sure when you're buying something, try to find ways to get deals. I've never paid MSRP for anything. I've always gotten something off of everything I purchase. And if I were to buy a car right now, if I can't get a deal at one dealership, I'll just go to the next one. I will at least get invoice at the very least. I used to get EP, which is employee pricing, when I worked for my previous company, but because I don't work there anymore, now I have to find ways to, you know, negotiate getting a better deal on my cars, or I could just find another job where I get EP, whether it be with Ford, GMC, or Chrysler again. We'll see. See you guys in the future.